Okay. I got some shit. Wait. On my phone, I got some ideas that I wrote down and will read after maybe cleaning them up a little bit. Alright. You know what? I'm just going to wing it after having wrote all this out and dictated it to my phone rather than fix all the spelling stuff. I'll just, so that I can read it well, I'll just wing it and use these as bullet points. Let's start with the basic changes I've made so far to the game. I still haven't fixed the music thing. Sorry, I will do that. Just when you die, the music starting over. I will fix that. I haven't yet. It will be easy though. So the first thing is I've changed the way the shooting the fireball works to make it much more forgiving, and make it so you used to be able to like break the physics system basically by falling through the shadows, because the physics object that is the shadow is just a single line which is raycast from the fire position outwards, and it creates like just a platform, a single a 1 pixel width platform, and it recreates that every single turn because otherwise it has to be subject to the physics simulation rules, and that breaks it. So it redoes that every turn, so you can, if you're going fast enough, like between when it's recreating that line, shoot through and die, and go into the shadow. And before, how I fixed that was, I just killed you if that bug happened for the jam because I couldn't figure out how to fix it in time. I tried a little bit to make it work properly, but I think the better solution, honestly, is just this. So now when you wind up, oh yeah, also when you aim your fireball now, you get a little reticle that goes out that populates with a bunch of little pop noises if you can hear them. I don't know, you can just play it if you can't hear it, but there are a bunch of popping noises as the reticle populates. Get it? Populates. Anyway, so that's just a nice thing. But the main difference now is like you shoot, and rather than physics simulation starting again once you shoot, it starts again when the fireball lands. Now, I think this is better because A, you won't fall through the platforms in the way I described previously, and B, it just makes platforming in this physics-based game a lot easier because, for example, it's gonna break some things right now because I'm doing stuff. But like, for example, in this room, right, you would do this, and then you'd have to time it right where you like when you shot the fireball at what point of your jump, because otherwise the platform might not quite be there when you landed. But now the platform will always be where you want it to be when you land, right? Which is nice. Just makes parts like this a lot easier. And then on top of that, yeah, you don't fall through the world. So that's a pretty good thing, I think. The other thing I did was, let me find a place with an open. Here, we're gonna break the game for a second. Actually, we're just gonna restart the game. The other thing is, so one of you guys during the jam did have an idea that I really liked, that I wanted to do a level concept for, where like you shoot the fireball off the screen and there's a bunch of stuff casting shadows off screen that you can't really see, and you have to like sort of find your way blindly in that way. It's a little trial and error-y, but I think there is a way to make a puzzle out of that where someone has to solve something, and it's not just trial and error. We'll figure that out. But basically, it also, so the physics simulation restarts either when you recall the fireball, when it lands and hits something, so like if it lands and hits a lamp, it restarts, or if it goes off screen, it will still, so we can have things like this going on still. Now this does break a couple of exactly three puzzles that are all based around you shooting the fireball, and then racing it to the end of the level. That was a concept for 3 levels. Um, so we're gonna have to redesign those levels, which is fine. They weren't that great anyway, and one of them still works even with that in. All right. So now let's talk about my ideas generally, like my bigger ideas for the game and the whole story thing I was talking about. So, all right. Right now, the game starts with this cutscene. You press any key to start, and there's this little silly poem about a dinosaur on a unicycle in French. All good. Um, so my whole idea revolves around taking this scene and making it the last scene in the game. So I was thinking diegetically, like this game is very neat. It's kind of silly, but I think to make it make a little more sense, god damn it, my phone is shutting down. Okay. Doesn't matter. We'll go from memory. So it starts with that scene. I want that to be the last scene in the game, and this is what I'm picturing. So the story is this. The game opens with basically a scene of I really wish I had my phone because this is the part I did want to read out, but okay, let's see if we can just do it from memory and sell it well. Game starts with a cutscene. It's like a dreary, like, sad French film cartoon kind of thing. Think good idea, bad idea from Animaniacs, if anyone watched that show. Anyway, so it's a mime. He's performing, and he's at a circus, and he's performing. He's doing some doing his routine. He's getting like bottles thrown at him and stuff, and he gets booed off the stage. And the sort of ringleader guy comes out and like tries to calm the crowd and shoo the mime off stage. And the mime goes back to wherever, his dressing room, I guess, and lights a cigarette and steps outside. And then he looks back in the tent to see the show that followed him, which is this. They're whipping this giant, captivated, not domesticated, but like T-Rex in chains lumbers out, right? And they're trying to make him do demeaning things like jump in a thing of, jump in a tiny pool, jump through a ring of fire, and they're whipping him, and the crowd's throwing their shakes at him, but they're loving it. They're going crazy for it, and the mime, looks sad or angry, right? As it's a shot of his face, and he's like, he feels for this this captured dinosaur. This is also meant to be tongue in cheek too, not like serious. Then, fade to black. The mime is doing whatever, back in his trailer or whatever, and he's smoking and whatever, looking at a nudie mag or something, something somewhat perverse or embarrassing. He's doing something. Nothing graphic though. Doing something, smoking, tosses his cigarette out the window of the trailer. Fire starts, and then, goes. The giant circus tent catches on fire, and scenes of destruction, and then, end, right? Like there's a big pile of ashes. The mime burned down the whole circus accidentally and burned this giant dinosaur alive with it. Something that, something he had compassion for, he accidentally killed. And so, here's the controversial change. I think you should be a mime on a unicycle with this fire thing following you around, and the fire maybe represents what you did, and now you're trying to make amends by finding all these bones, right? Now I still want to use the dinosaur on the unicycle sprite. I want it to have a very, because I don't want to lose it. I think it looks amazing. I'm conflicted about changing the main character, very much so. But I think the end of the game should be, like the end of the game should be a level where, so you put all the giant T-Rex's bones back together. You find an egg. This dino hatches out and is like following you around for a bit, and then once it trusts you, it like jumps on a unicycle like you, and then does sort of like this Mr. Magoo Lemmings-esque thing where it like goes from left to right on a level, right? Like this baby dinosaur is just like sort of like programmed to just sort of like bumble its way through this level while you're making platforms for it, and that's the final level of the game. And you bring this baby dinosaur back to the museum, and then, as I said, that cutscene we have now starting the game is the cutscene that finishes the game. So yeah, that's my big idea for story and main character, and the big thing that I think maybe the most controversial change that I suggest. The other thing is, the last things I'll mention is I want this to be, I'm going to make 2 more areas besides the, so I want this game to be open world, totally open world. You can go to any of these 3 places to start with. I want you to be able to go to the museum, like a church, and like a dungeon or a cave. Maybe the ruins of the burned down circus might be a cool place, but and I want each place to have a gimmick. So this place is the basic gimmick of the Shadows gimmick. The church, I think, is a really neat idea. Is now you're casting through stained glass instead of casting shadows, and so you're casting always like a blue area or a red area depending on what color the fire is, and you can switch the color. I don't know if at will or at certain positions. Maybe at certain positions might be better for puzzles. But you could switch it between red and blue and do sort of like an Ikaruga thing where you're like, okay, I'm doing red shadows now, I'm doing blue shadows now. Or maybe actually you just have a blue one and a red one and they cast their own shadows each. That's probably best. But yeah, so like different colored shadows and like alteration, altering between the two and where you place the 2 flames being the main puzzles there. Then the abandoned circus, I had this idea in the beginning, is like, I wanted there to be places where there are like hidden doors that you can only see in the shadows. So like, say there was a little platform down here at the bottom. Don't know if you can see my mouse, but down below the dinosaur right now, there's a platform down there. And if the shadow's not showing, I don't see anything. But if I cast here, then you see, oh, there's a door, like a shadow door. And then when the shadow door appears somewhere in the non-shadow area, a corresponding light side door appears, and you could travel between them as long as you're leaving your fire in the same place. And you're just like, it's just like the opposite now, right? When you're on the shadow side, the areas that are lit up are solid to you, and the shadow areas are not. So yeah, and I want each of those to have roughly 20 levels, as this area does right now. So 60 level game, totally open world, and once you satisfy a certain amount of conditions, I don't think you should have to beat all of the all the levels, but it triggers this whole thing where you like find this baby dinosaur, and it follows you like a baby Metroid. Alright, so that's like basically my idea. I welcome everyone's feedback, and we're gonna go to static now. Goodbye.